It's been a long, long while since we've actually talked about some legit Canucks news that's not a review of something that happened in the past, not some old trade rumors and trade discussions between GMs that never actually came to fruition. Let's talk today about a few notes that Rick Dhaliwal posted onto Twitter. He posted this tweet 2 days ago. Some Canucks notes, with a link to the Twitlonger post. I don't even know if it's pronounced Twitlonger, it's just a way that people tweet longer things, but the website is called Twitlonger. So Rick Dhaliwal had a few updates as to some Vancouver Canucks related discussion, talking about things like the Utica Comets and their defensive core, some prospects, and some European guys. So let's take a look at some of these notes over here. It's formatted very nicely. A sentence is a line, and every line has a little bit of new pieces of information. Let's start things off with the first point of discussion that Dhaliwal labels out. It is the Utica Comets. Dhaliwal says this: "The Comets could look different next season with the forward group. On the blue line, however, there might not be many changes. There's been early indication that the Vancouver Canucks organization is interested in bringing back Jalen Chatfield, Ashton Sautner, and Guillaume Brisebois. Sautner's a UFA, the other two guys are RFAs. Again, it's early, and things change quickly in hockey, but that trio brings stability and leadership to the Utica blue line and were the three D-men called up by the Canucks consistently when Vancouver needed a D-man call-up. Will Jett Wu be able to make the switch to pro hockey and grab a spot in Utica, or will he be back in Calgary for an overage season in the WHL? There are questions that the Utica Comets blue line definitely do have to sort out, but if these reports are indeed true, and it is noted that they're interested in keeping Chatfield, Sautner, and Brisebois, you really have nothing to lose with having people like this in your organization. With a Vancouver Canucks D-core that really doesn't look all too stable for the next few months, guys like Tanev, guys like Stetcher, etc. all expiring, guys like Tramkin maybe coming back, maybe not, there certainly isn't a problem, in my opinion, in having pieces that can fill the holes, just in case the Vancouver Canucks go worst case scenario and all of a sudden they can't re-sign Tanev or a Troy Stetcher, and they keep the guys that they have in Utica as available call-up options. Furthermore, on to Jett Wu. He's a guy that I was actually planning on making a What's Next For video about, so we will talk about him a little bit more in depth there. But Wu's a guy who can definitely go either or, either spend a year in Utica or have an overage season in Calgary. Personally, just spoiler alerts for the Wu video that we'll be making in a few days, I wouldn't disagree with either of them. He could honestly take some time to benefit with one more year in Calgary where he is the guy, or transitioning to the pro game immediately wouldn't necessarily be a bad idea either. But that kind of wraps up our little talk here on Utica defenders. Up front, Justin Bailey was a big hit in Utica last year, one of the leaders on a veteran Comets team. Bailey is an RFA and is getting interest from teams in Europe, but the goal is to play and remain in North America next season. Agent Pat Brisson told me Justin is an NHLer. Bailey did not get much ice time when he was called up by the Canucks for 2 games, but he certainly has the size and speed to get more looks at the NHL level. Justin Bailey is a guy who, back when the Vancouver Canucks acquired this player a while ago, I honestly didn't really see too much out of him in being an NHL caliber athlete, mostly because of his track record in the past. He spent a lot of years in Buffalo, in Philadelphia, up and down in different AHL systems, and that to me just spoke volumes towards him being an AHL primary player. But my oh my, was Justin Bailey a good AHL player. 47 points in 53 games played and 28 goals. Playing with the Comets this past season, the guy proved that he's got wheels. And boy oh boy, the kind of speed and puck possession that this guy is able to drive is so awesome to watch, especially as a 6'4", 214-pound winger. He's 24 years old, so the guy still has some capacity to grow and become even better than what he is already. And when he was with Vancouver, I saw a lot of Canucks fans saying things like, yo, this guy's legit. Play this guy more. What the heck's going on? So the way he has been progressing from a year ago up until now, the way he was able to showcase himself at both the NHL and the AHL level, it's really not surprising to me to say that, yeah, European teams are interested in this guy right here. But at least we'll get the confirmation that he wants to be in the NHL and he wants to play in this league. So we'll see on how things go down with the re-signing, the RFA, the contract, etc. If the agent is saying that he wants to play here, then okay, I'm interested. Speaking about Utica Comets forwards, though, Nikolai Goldobin is gone, and Rick Dhaliwal does not see Reid Boucher or Sven Baertschi returning. Now, this actually did happen a few days ago, and I didn't make a video about it. Clay Emu did, so I'll leave a link in the description to that video. But Sven Baertschi was talking about how he wants to be back in the NHL. He had an interview with Jeff Patterson, but he talked about how the Canucks were really trying to move him earlier towards the trade deadline, but it just didn't end up happening. So, with Sven Baertschi, with the concussion history, with all that stuff, it doesn't really seem to me like he is going to find a spot in Vancouver anytime soon, but because of the skill that he does have, I still do think that Baertschi can make some form of an impact at the NHL level. The guy can get points, the guy can score, it's just the Vancouver Canucks don't have the room anymore, so I would hope that Sven Baertschi gets another opportunity and that he doesn't end up getting another concussion or whatever. I want this guy to succeed because Sven Baertschi, I've always had a soft spot for the guy. It's just a matter of time, I guess, before the Vancouver Canucks find that home for Sven Baertschi in the future, I guess. Next up, Jim Benning says he wants to sign 20-year-old Calgary Hitmen forward Carson Focht, but there have been no contract talks yet. Now, Focht is an interesting one. He's a guy that the Vancouver Canucks drafted last season in 2019. He was a 5th-round pick, if I remember correctly, and he was an overager at the draft. He's already 20 years old, and he's coming off a season where he actually declined in productivity compared to the season he had before. He had more goals, yes, but at the same time, Carson Focht, as an overage player, a double overage player, he doesn't really seem like a guy who, to me, boasts the best amount of potential. Obviously, though, things will change. The Canucks have been very high on this player, and if Jim Benning wants to sign him and bring him to Utica, then hey, maybe we'll be able to see what he can do. There were some articles back when he was drafted talking about how Focht has legit 100-point WHL potential. Obviously, that didn't happen this past season, but if the best is yet to come with Carson Focht, then I guess I'd be open to keeping him around. Speaking about prospects, though, Rick Dhaliwal talks about European guys. Toni Utunen is a 20-year-old D-man who played in Finland last year, and apparently, his agent is going to start talking with the Canucks as to where Utunen is going to play next season. We don't know if that's going to be Finland, Utica, Canucks, who knows? But it looks like there will be discussions that go on in a few days here. 20-year-old Linus Karlsson has elected to sign for 1 more year in Sweden. Karlsson is the player the Canucks got in the Dahlin trade. Linus Karlsson's a weird one, man. I still have not made a video about this, but his agent says that 1 more year in Sweden will not hurt Linus, so I guess that's a perspective that you can agree with. But he's a guy that the Vancouver Canucks fanbase really hasn't been super excited for, especially compared to how excited Canucks fans were for Jonathan Dahlin back when they had him in the system. It's just really interesting because they were traded for each other eventually, and now Linus Karlsson is spending another year in Sweden, so it looks like a long-term game here with developing this prospect, but we'll see where he is in a year from now after another year in what seems to be the Allsvenskan. And with that, we wrap up Rick Dhaliwal's really long Canucks notes list. It was a long one here, I know, I get that. I thank you for sticking with it through the very end. Give Rick Dhaliwal the credit. He's the guy who posted all this stuff onto Twitlonger and to Twitter. Comment down below what you think about these players, these prospects, etc. I hope you enjoyed this video. So, and bye.